The CoinDesk Spotlight is brought to you by Nexo, the place to earn on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and more.
So if last year, 2021, was the year of the NFT, 2022 may very well be the year of the DAO, decentralized autonomous organizations. And one of the buzziest DAOs in this space is Friends with Benefits, which I'm not really going to try to describe here, but it's been called everything from a group chat, crypto-backed social club, startup incubator, the list goes on. Anyway, joining us to give a much more accurate description is Alexander Zhang, mayor of Friends with Benefits. Welcome, Alexander.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Great to see you again. So why don't we just start with because I don't really think I described Friends with Benefits all that accurately, but it's kind of hard to describe. What is your really quick elevator pitch for what this is and sort of why it's needed right now?
So Friends with Benefits is a community that brings together individuals who sit at the intersection of culture and crypto. And we explore and use the blockchain mechanics of ownership and sovereignty, fluid payments, transparency, to think about new ways of cultural production. And we do this through primarily community facilitated events and festivals, to an editorial platform that we've built, to physical products, digital tools, social software, all sort of emergent from the community, with the FWB Discord as our core home base. And all of this is facilitated by the FWB token, which is an ERC20, and the shared bonding agent, or the incentive that ensures value accrues to all edges of our network.
Okay, thank you. That was a good explanation. So, but I guess here's the question, there's many questions about DAOs, but one for you specifically is that, DAOs are really being portrayed as a sort of like revolutionary form of governance and this kind of new kind of organization. And yet you guys are backed by a very traditional VC, Andreessen Horowitz. I think they gave you 10 million. And, there's already been a lot of controversy about the role of VCs in crypto, right? And I'm sure you've seen the whole kind of battle with Jack Dorsey, who kind of claims that VCs are just not good for this space because it's like, they have too much influence. So how do you kind of square what some people would see as like a little bit of a contradiction, and having this like totally, organized by the people, governed by the people, and then like a massive VC behind it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the truth is that a lot of really great organizations are built sort of in those middle spaces. And I wouldn't call it necessarily a compromise, because I think both parties bring tremendous value to the table, but entirely run community organizations have their limitations. Entirely VC funded, late stage capitalistic driven organizations also have their challenges. And we evaluated, specifically with Friends with Benefits and where we wanted to go, as an opportunity to explore a meeting in the middle and value exchange between both parties. And as FWB started as completely community run, grassroots, of the people, we can call it, in that camp, as we began to build and grow, we identified a lot of areas where we needed, let's call it, institutional support. And it was a decision made from day one with our community. We did multiple town halls on it. We brought all the investors into the Discord, where they did a Q&A town hall with our community, where they got to ask questions about what the ROI, what their expected ROI was, what the roles and responsibilities would be, where boundaries lied, and ultimately put to a vote through the governance of the DAO. The community decided to participate in the treasury diversification or the fundraise. And since then, working with not just A16Z, but a host of other investors from the community, as well as all the way up to the institutional level, it's been incredible in unlocking resources far beyond just the capital, in terms of legal, advisory, all the different components that as the peer community we needed support in. And so I think the answer to that question is there's no sort of silver bullet in how these organizations get built. We explored one model in which we partnered with other sort of financial partners, and have since then found it to be both incredibly valuable and also harmonious, and that none of them have encroached in a way that has made any community members feel uncomfortable. They aren't operating under traditional Web2 frameworks of scale, but instead encouraging us to continue to experiment and figure out the roadmap that makes most sense for our community.
Alexander, as my coworkers and the other guests and my wife will attest, I'm not the brightest guy in the world. So can you go back to explaining exactly what is Friends with Benefits? I'm a consumer, let's say, and I want to use it. What is it? What am I getting into?
Yeah, absolutely. So Friends with Benefits sort of sits in the social token category. We have 6,000 unique token holders of the sort of largest in that category. And you can think of it like any other cultural or membership organization. We sort of have two core buckets: cultural creators and cultural maintainers. And under those fall anyone from technologists to artists to entrepreneurs, and truly diverse across multiple different sectors. But the idea first and foremost was, what does a social space look like where there can be an exchange of knowledge, learning, collaboration, information,
and where does that
is useful primarily on our Discord, which is essentially like a messaging forum, social platform.
I'm paying for I'm paying for a token that gives me access into one or two of the buckets to participate in the Discord, and then what?
So once you participate in the Discord is sort of the hub, right? The HQ. But jetting out from that Discord is a whole network of events and experiences. We have city DAOs, LA, London, and New York, where they organize even additional meetups and experiences, to an editorial platform where we're constantly writing. Go ahead.
What do you say experiences? What kind of experiences?
Everything from, we're producing a festival this August, which is going to be our own sort of conference festival with speakers, music, everything in between those categories, all the way to smaller local events. So bringing together who have shared interests across those categories I'd mentioned earlier. We do gallery tours, we do concerts, we do sort of anything that those local cities as a DAO want to organize and produce for its members.
It's the buzzy, fun events you want to be a part of, where the cool kids are. So if you, when you first started the community, it's supposed to be grassroots. So I'd like you to the ideal community member, because now it seems that money would be a barrier to entry to buy the Friends with Benefits token. It's costlier than it was, I'm sure, in the start. And now you have to have several thousands of dollars to be a member. So I'm wondering who would be the ideal community member now?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's tremendously shifted away from that core goal. I think obviously as the token price rises and falls, it becomes accessible or less accessible or more accessible at different points in time. But as a community, we've prioritized building many different access points beyond just acquiring the token off of the market, right? And so, for instance, we have many different contributor rails, from writing for our editorial platforms to contributing to our art program to becoming a fellow or going through our artist in residency program, all the way to many other ways of just contributing to the DAO. And through contributing, we pay everyone in FWB tokens, and so they're able to increase ownership in the community. And I want to highlight that the token not only serves as sort of that ownership entry mechanic, but also as the fundamental governance voting mechanism, which as a community and as a DAO is how people are able to communicate with the organization through a vote on what types of initiatives and programs are funded and focused on.
So just to break this down further and to follow up kind of on Lawrence's line of questions. So, I think you just explained why the token exists and, what the token does. But I guess the question is what are some of the problems that it solves, right? I mean, because this idea of social clubs and this idea of social communities, I mean, obviously these have existed for a long time, right? And I can sort of see why, abstractly this idea of every member having more of a stake or having more ownership, yes, in theory that, but what was the thing that you couldn't do before that you can do now with a DAO structure? Because I think that would be really helpful for just convincing more ordinary people that this is something that is changing the game.
Yeah, I mean, at its core, I haven't found the tools that the sort of blockchain, or let's say the token, has provided in large scale human coordination and a value accrual to multiple users across an entire network, right? I think in traditional community organizations, which is even the background that I've come from, the traditional corporate structure has been limiting and has kind of put you into a box in terms of the types of business models you have to generate explicitly revenue for those community organizations. Now, in a Web3 context where community members aren't necessarily paying a recurring subscription fee, they're purchasing ownership in a community that, let's say they decide that they don't enjoy the community, they're able to sell, they're able to exit, is incredibly empowering. And also the ability that those individuals are able to fundamentally vote on the direction of that organization is also, in my opinion, really groundbreaking. And the fact that it's all recorded on chain. And so while a lot of the, let's say, organizational activities aren't novel in that many people have been gathering for hundreds, thousands of years, the idea is that now with a new value accrual system, the token, where everyone has ownership in the network, is an exciting exploration in how the community in the organization or the users in the platform can be aligned over a long period of time, as opposed to, if we look at the last 10 years of social media, for example, you see a divergence in interest beyond between the platform and its users because of the sort of the primary form of economic activity, which would have been like advertising, right? And so this new framework of allowing the community members to directly have an ownership and a say in the future stewarding of that thing that they want to participate in is what excites us, fundamentally at the end of the day, as well as a core goal of our organization is how do we introduce these new Web3 frameworks of ownership to people who aren't yet involved in crypto, right? So thinking about how to introduce it to the next generation of artists or creatives and teaching them about the power of value accrual and ownership and fluidity of payments and all these things that haven't been as present in over the last decade.
So what's the vetting process here? Because there have been social clubs that have been started in the recent past, and you would see them in the meat space, at least in New York. And quite frankly, they were terrifying. It's a lot of either finance bros or crypto bros, and it was just a lot of bros who have a lot of money to get entrance into a club, and they were, quite frankly, people you just wanted to run away from, and yet here they show up and they're sitting next to you and they're talking your ear off about something you don't want to hear about. So what exactly is this going to do? Like, how are you attracting, first of all, people other than bros, but, making it more diverse? And what are you doing to sort of create that atmosphere? Are you doing anything at all? Is there an application process? What are the criteria for joining?
Yeah, there's a couple different things to unpack in that question. I'll start first with the diversity component. That is fundamentally core to the organization, and in my belief in how do you ensure a community or a space is diverse has to start from the fundamental leadership team and sort of the core organization. And so our team is fundamentally diverse, sort of at the genesis, and as we've begun to hire and bring on all the different contributors from the community, everything fits sort of our internal criteria of ensuring that those values are met. That fundamentally trickles down into every different aspect and sort of surface that we do. And so that's sort of from the top level. And then additionally, just making sure we're always partnering with the right cultural and community organizations that are up and coming, as every week there's amazing new models and frameworks and other sub communities that emerge that share the same ideals we have of diversity, and making sure we're allowing them to participate and flowing them into FWB. On the application process side, how that works, this too is a really interesting experiment. We allowed the community to decide who the future community members are. And so there's a membership committee. It rotates every season. It's comprised of community members. They have sort of a loose set of criteria that they follow that isn't bound by how much money you have or how accomplished you are, but more so what do you want to sort of contribute to the space, and how have you contributed to sort of the culture or the Web3 space to date? And actually, one of my favorite questions in sort of the process is crypto the least interesting thing about you, and what else are you into? And it's really less about aggregating a bunch of, as you call it, crypto bros, and more about using community and the tools we've built as a way to introduce Web3 and crypto to non-crypto users.
So we're still in the early day of DAOs, and a lot of the coverage, at least in sort of like the crypto world, is like, DAOs fix this. Like it's pretty, everybody's pretty frothy about it, right? So I'd love to hear just some like kind of real talk from you. Like, what are the challenges? What are the pain points? What are the mistakes? Like, because I can't imagine this is that easy, right? You're trying to do something very different. Your own role is quite interesting because you're like the mayor, which is sort of the head of this decentralized thing. So can you just tell us some like anecdotes or stories about something that went wrong, or places where you're just really like, okay, this doesn't work, or this we got to try something new? Because I think that would just be really helpful to illustrate the challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really glad you asked that question, and I feel sort of challenged by this daily in terms of we all do collectively as a community where there haven't really been models like this in the past. And so the easiest sort of analogies to sort of box it in and place it is like social club, right? Or group chat with a shared bank account. And yes, we have remnants of all of that, but fundamentally every day we're kind of, at least as a community and as a group, we feel like we're making a lot of decisions for the first time and are constantly redefining ourselves. As anyone who's studied internet native movements knows, these things can be quite emergent and unpredictable, and at the same time, and ideally, novel and sort of let's call it, genre defying. In terms of the challenges, there are many. I think design and decision by committee is incredibly challenging, right? And that I think plagues a lot of different DAOs. We sort of as a group made a decision early on in the DAO where we would actually operate more as a representative democracy as opposed to a direct democracy. So direct being every single decision is made by committee, casted by votes, as opposed to representation where, myself as a mayor, someone who is sort of elected or put into this role, is here to steward for a period of time with a specific sort of scope, and sort of empowered or trusted to make decisions that serve the responsibilities of the community. And so as someone previously who had reported to a board of directors, I almost view the board as the community. So I think that interesting governance or sort of fiduciary responsibility is highlighted through this representative democracy framework as opposed to direct, and one that I think has allowed us to sidestep a lot of the challenges that many of my other DAO leader peers face when perhaps they decentralize decision making way too early on, because the truth is you need information to make great decisions, and information still the systems haven't been built for that to fully be distributed as evenly as possible. And so I think first off, a lot of challenges are around when a community or a DAO decentralizes the decision making too early on, and instead, we found success in first a representative democratic framework with sort of the voting on specific initiatives, and then moving towards this progressive decentralization over a period of time. And then the second is just the very public nature of building in public, right? The idea that everything we're creating, the entire community can see. When before, if you at our current stage, we're still very early. We're just in our second year. You have an entire public market of a live liquid token sitting on top of and essentially speculating on the value of what we're creating when we're still quite in our infancy. And so I think that's a second challenge for a lot of team members and operators who are building DAOs with sort of live markets attached to it, whether it's an NFT or it's just a fungible token, is that experience of sort of building so openly. But I personally find it a little bit exhilarating because it's interesting to see almost like live sentiment from a community or a group of stakeholders, and if you are sort of providing utility for that token, which for us is the primary objective, is driving utility.